Hey everybody, DeHubs here with a new type of video. This is top 5s. So I'm currently playing through Pokemon Leaf Green on the Game Boy, and in the original generation of Kanto there were 151 Pokemons including Mew. With that in mind, for one reason or another, I've never actually owned all 151 on the original Pokemon games. So today we're going to look at some of those Pokemons that I've never owned and ones that I would love to use. Specifically, we're going to be looking at Red, Blue, and Yellow, as Fire Red and Leaf Green changed up some things. But let's go ahead and get on to this list. Coming in at number 5 is Flareon. And I had a tough time picking between Flareon and Jolteon. Honestly, this could include almost any electric type and almost any fire type. Their move pools were so shallow, and they didn't learn good moves until it was basically too late in the game. Using Flareon for an example, it learned Ember at 31, Fire Spin at 44, and Flamethrower at 54. 54. That is crazy. And the Pokemon competitive scene, which I wasn't a part of at the time, but I've read about, it had different rules than today's competitive scene. And I cannot possibly imagine Flareon being anywhere good enough for competitive standards at that time. But this trend of learning your best move in your 50s was a common theme, and a problem for that matter, for a lot of these Pokemons. The problem may exist for many different types, but for me, Fire was the poster poke for getting messed over by this trend. So let's look at another example here. Magmar. Magmar is another awesome fire Pokemon that I really love, but I've never used it, and the move pool problem plagued him as well. He learns Ember, Fire Punch, and Flamethrower, and he learns Flamethrower at level 55. It's just too big of a problem. And now, while these problems may specifically apply to the competitive scene, it also impacted my decision when playing through these old games. Coming in at number 4 is Pinsir. So, Bug is arguably one of my top 3 favorite types, along with water and poison Pokemons. However, they definitely got the short end of the stick in Generation 1. Just wait until you hear this. There are only 4 Bug moves. Let's compare that to the other types. Some notable ones: Flying comes in at 7, Water has 9, Fire has 5, Normal has over 70. Now, given not everyone's a great move, Grass has 10, Electric has 5, Fighting has 9, Ground has 6, and even Poison gets 8. So as you can see, Bug was not hit the hardest. I would dare say that was Dragon and Ghost. Dragon has 1 move, and Ghost has 3. But its moves just did it no favors. I personally think Bug had 3 of the coolest Pokemons from Generation 1. Look at Pinsir, look at Scyther, and look at Beedrill. But they are almost unusable. If you're curious, the 4 Bug moves are Leech Life, String Shot, Pin Missile, and Twin Needle. Despite looking awesome, I just never bothered to use one. On top of all of that, Pinsir is a Blue exclusive. I just never played Blue too much. Coming in at number 3 is Dragonite. And oh boy, where do we begin? It has the shallowest of shallow move pools. Its only stab move has a set damage of 40. It doesn't even learn Hyper Beam until level 60. It's just so meh. Not even to mention, getting Dragonite is a hassle for a little kid. Dratini can be found in the Safari Zone, and I believe Dratini could also be bought at the Game Corner, but I just never really bothered with the Game Corner as a kid. I just saw it as throwing money away. In fact, I would almost rather just save up money from selling nuggets or whatnot and just sell money straight up rather than actually gambling my money away. But I also mentioned Dragonite is one of my favorite Pokemons from Kanto. I love the design, and I voted for it on another one of my blogs called Top 5 Pokemons that should be added to Pokken, because I really do love him and I love his design, and I think he should be utilized more. Outrage would be added in Generation 2 along with a few other moves. So that's good and all, but for Generation 1, he just he just never added up to me. Something I always wanted to use, but took too long to evolve, too long to train, and just really wasn't worth it when it was all said and done. The post story for Generation 1 just wasn't really good enough to justify getting a Dragonite, in my opinion. So coming in at number 2 is Horsey. And I love Horsey. Unofficially, she's my second favorite Pokemon from Generation 1. Sadly for her, my favorite is Squirtle. And I just never needed a second water type. Honestly, I'd probably be more inclined to pick Staryu anyway, for obvious reasons. But I loved Misty's Horsey in the anime. She was just so precious. I do not know if I'll ever use her in a Kanto adventure. Seadra, his best move is Hydro Pump. A powerful move, but with just 80 accuracy. Now, being a water Pokemon does open her up to the TM Surf, or the HM Surf. TMs give it the availability of Skull Bash, Blizzard, and Hyper Beam. I do not know if I'll ever end up using a Horsey, as I use Squirtle in almost every single one of my Generation 1 adventures. And yet again, Staryu would still exist. But maybe, for fun one day, we'll bust out Horsey and give her a try. Now I'd like to take a second to talk about some honorable mentions. Any of the trade evolutions, Machamp, Alakazam, Gengar, or Golem, I would have loved to use, but I just didn't trade much as a kid. I had 2 friends that played Pokemon, but we just didn't trade. We battled occasionally, but I don't think we ever traded. Weezing and Arbok, I mentioned that I love poison Pokemons, but I never really used a poison Pokemon in Generation 1. I never really used Bulbasaur either, and none really come to mind. Muck could also probably make this list. I love them. They are some of my favorite Pokemons, but in the game, stats are a thing, and I just never got around to using them. Fossil Pokemons, Amistar, Kabutops, and Aerodactyl. They're just given to you so late at the game. I think Amistar and Kabutops are given to you at level 5. Aerodactyl might be level 20. It's been a minute since I've been to that part of the game, so I may be wrong, but they're just so low level compared. You get them on Cinnabar Island, which is the 8th gym, right? So it's just too far into the game. I guess you could theoretically grind through Victory Road, but as a kid, some things I could never be bothered to do, and training up the fossil Pokemons into actually usable Pokemons was one of those things. But now we'll unveil number 1, and that is Kangaskhan. And now this spot could go to any normal Pokemon, honestly, from Snorlax to Chansey to Clefable, and any of the Safari Pokemons from Tauros, Chansey, etc. We talked about Dratini, and there was Executor, and there are just so many great Safari Pokemons that as a kid, I never really knew about their location, so I had an idea of what was out there, but the rarity of them, and the Safari Zone was broken up into sections, and some of the Pokemons only existed in certain sections, and you gotta understand I was a kid, around the age of 5 or so when I was playing these games, and so I just never got around to them. But Kangaskhan is definitely awesome. It was hard to narrow it down, and at the end of the day, I did settle on Kangaskhan. For reasons I've hinted at, her design is really fierce, and her Joey is awesome, and would go on to play a big part in her Mega Evolution. Her move pool is also amazing, as she learns Bite, Mega Punch, and Dizzy Punch from leveling up. But once you take TMs to consideration, she's able to learn Body Slam, Double Edge, Takedown, Mega Kick, Submission, Earthquake, and Rock Slide. And there's even more that she wasn't able to take full advantage of due to the physical special split and her being a normal type. But she would also learn Thunder and Blizzard. Now, I don't really remember if the anime highlighted her or not, as from my memory, most of the time they were spotlighting good old Tauros and the thousands of them that Ash caught. But I could also be wrong. So factor in that she was not well spotlighted in the anime, and her being deep in the Pokemon Safari, and that was just too much for a little old Pokemon trainer like myself to grapple with as a kid. Alright guys, I'm going to end this top 5 here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do these on my blog. I try to put out top 5s on Fridays. So if you're interested in seeing these a week in advance, you can go over to dehubs.com for my blog and just follow it there. I talk about Pokemon news, animes, mangas, video games, whatever. It's all open for discussion. You guys can leave a comment on something else I should discuss. Just go over there. You can see what I'm into, and it's a good fun. There's a lot of articles on there to read, and I think I enjoyed doing this, so I'll probably do a top 5 from Crystal, Gold, and Silver. I have another video in mind that I'll get into later that involves Generation 2, but like I said, all that stuff is going to go up about at least a week ahead on the blog. So if you want to see more, head over there. I have Let's Plays. I have some TCG elements on this channel. So if any of that stuff sounds interesting to you, the Pokemon card game, Pokemon games. I also did a Hat in Time. If this is your first time checking out the channel, we're doing Assassin's Creed. There's a lot of diverse content on this channel, and yeah, I guess I'm all talked out. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in the next exciting video. Have a great day, guys.